Hi, hello. Welcome to the episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is May 10th, 2023. Hopefully, this episode finds you well, in good spirits, with high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good, feeling all right. Let's see, not too much to report on the food, sadly. It's been pretty ho-hum. The job gave out some free popcorn today, so I got that. I got a couple bags of the old popping corns. So that was good. It was yummy. Haven't really had dinner yet. I will say though, what was it? Last night was pasta night. One of the classics. And I gotta say, I kicked it old school and was listening to some Sade, and that was very nice. It was very nice. Just cooking, having a little nice vibe. It was good. Highly recommend. Another recommendation I gotta add is I think I finished my book for the year. I try to read at least one book this year, and I was kind of struggling because I just wasn't motivated. I think the last book I read was Farewell to Arms. It was some Hemingway shit, which I enjoyed. I liked it. Unlike Oh no, I read two books last year. I read that and I read The Stand. Yeah, because unlike fucking Stephen King, you know, the inward ratio was a lot lower per page. Maybe I think he only maybe used it 3 or 4 times. Neat. I can believe that it's used for a satirical, just to drive a narrative thing there. Whatever. Anyway, but I read this book. Gosh, I should have had it pulled up. Dark Matter. Should have the author here. Dark Matter by Brian Couch. Is it Brian Couch? I think it is. Oh no, now they're showing me Dark Matter. I meant the book. Thanks, Google. God damn it. Blake Couch. Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, I'd asked a friend, hey, I'm looking for like a sci-fi book because I was like, I want to read another sci-fi book. The last sci-fi book I read was The Stand, so they suggested this. I read it and I just really enjoyed it. Not to spoil anything or anything like that, but it's like a time traveling kind of sci-fi. I don't know. It was very interesting, so highly recommend. Don't know if I'm gonna read any more books. Probably just depend on the money. But and I don't want to say time because the way I do it, just doing audiobooks, like it's very easy to read. I can read while I work or do activities, drive around, whatever. So frees me up to read. I just don't take the opportunity. But yeah, that's really all I have to report. So I'm gonna go ahead and get settled in for this episode, if you know what I mean. If you want to get comfy yourself, feel free. My little newsies. Should there be newsettes? I feel like newsies is fine. I think we can just say that to everyone. It's a uniform term. I don't think you need a newsies or newsettes. But if people want to go by newsettes, I'm fine with that. Ooh. Okay, let's get into it. From the Associated Press, jury finds Trump liable for sex abuse, awards accuser $5 million. Now, this is the update on the E. Jean Carroll versus Trump lawsuit case. Let's see. A jury found Donald Trump liable Tuesday for sexually abusing advice columnist E. Jean Carroll in 1996, awarding her $5 million in a judgment that could haunt the former president as he campaigns to regain the White House. Now, this is an update. We covered the story a little bit. I didn't really get into, much of the trial. I kind of wanted to see how this was all going to unfold and just kind of do not a summary, but just what happened? How did it go? But, essentially, she went in for this, this rape lawsuit, and I kind of found out some more details listening to the Daily today, and essentially, this was a new thing that had gotten opened up where it allowed victims of rape cases, I believe up to like 30 years ago or whatever. And this is essentially what allowed Carroll to have the opportunity to at least file a lawsuit. And, you can potentially get that claim, put in, and then a person would have to pay like punitive damages. Now, they wouldn't have to go to jail. So there was never a situation here where Donald Trump was going to get convicted and then go to and face jail time. This is only going to be about money, and essentially also for Carroll, since she added the defamation part of it, to, clear her name, defend her reputation, because she put out a book and Donald Trump responded more or less saying, like, I don't know who this person is. Also, just looking at her, she's not my type. Now, Carroll and her team more or less made it like, okay, Donald Trump isn't going to show up. His legal defense team is just going to, defend him, whatever. But we do have actual we have testimony from deposition that we've done. And then we also have just things that he has said in the media. There's this Access Hollywood clip that's just obviously made the rounds. I didn't really know it as that, but if you've heard the grab him by the pussy, phrase that is associated with Trump, it comes from that, where essentially he's hot mic'd or whatever, and he's just saying the shit. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't care that it's hot mic, because he defends it later on in the deposition, where he's just like, yeah, like if you're a star, these other stars, they just like you, that you can do whatever the fuck you want with them. Now, I'm paraphrasing a bit here, but essentially he's like, yeah, you can just go up, you can kiss them, you can grab them by the pussy, you can just do whatever. And he's like, it's crazy. And it's like, no, dude, that's not how this works. But like I said, he doubles down on that in like 2019 in this deposition, being like, yeah, like for better or for worse, this has been happening for over a million years. And it made me, when I heard him say that, it made me think of like some caveman doing like just the worst like alpha man riz on someone. Like, what, dude? Like, no, you can't get handsy, dog. That's not how this works. It never works that way. If you do that, it's a problem. I've noticed a lot of associations with like the Me Too movement and stuff like that, where a lot of people are saying like, yes, this is like another big ramification from that. Like, we are finally seeing like someone as big as a former president finally seeing justice, from that kind of movement. And, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think it's definitely been a waxing and a waning in a way, where you just haven't seen it as strong so much in terms of like media play or whatever, but it is something that's constantly, getting brought up. And I think it is for good reason, to kind of show that, hey, look, we have come a long way, since that movement has started. And granted, we have a hell of a long way to go. I also think that it is a bit weird, because the jury, they ruled in Carroll's favor overall, but they essentially downgraded it from a rape, and they said it that Trump was responsible for a sexual abuse. So it's still a win, but at the same time, they didn't say directly like, oh, Trump is a rapist. So he technically does get to dodge that. I mean, that being said, this is still on the, the record. He has to pay $5 million, just about some total. Obviously, Trump's team is going to be appealing this. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, it's definitely going to be one of those things where it's just one of the added to the legal things on Trump's jacket. But I'm glad that it's turned out this way. Like I had said in, the episode where we first covered this, I wasn't sure how things were going to turn out, in terms of, this is such an old case, and not to mention, she doesn't have like concrete details. And that's kind of something that's been an issue, where it's like, she has people that she's talked to in the aftermath of what happened. But she doesn't have like an exact date nailed down. And that was something that Trump's team, drilled her on. They also took it further to say like, well, you didn't report this to the police. You also, like, why didn't you like scream? Which is something that she like definitely rebuffed on. And it's like, I just because I didn't scream, that doesn't make me not a victim. It doesn't mean I didn't fight. That doesn't mean like I'm not a survivor here. And yeah, I think that's definitely a strategy that blew up in Trump's team's face, because you're trying to play that card of like, oh, like even if this did happen, like, like, it doesn't seem like you fought that hard. It doesn't seem like, you know, you actually put up a fight or whatever. Like, you didn't. They even, I think, go as far as like, you didn't write in your diary or whatever. They added like, oh well, you watched The Apprentice and seemed to not have any negative opinion about it. Da 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 da. It's like, it's this whole thing of like, you have to be a certain kind of victim to be a victim. And if you don't act like that, then something's wrong here in your story. And I'm glad to see that it didn't work out. That strategy just backfired. Um, I think Trump has, even though he didn't show up, he posted saying like, "Oh, this is a political witch hunt," yada yada yada. Further maintain he doesn't know this woman, blah 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 blah. He's gonna appeal it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't look good for him, but at the same time, for his campaign, it almost doesn't matter. Like, and it's so weird to say that, just because this is such a big thing. Like, it's definitely something at some point that's going to get talked about. But at the same time, in terms of his race for the Republican nomination, like, he just tanks this issue. And then you pan out to the people who are, also vying for this nomination, the DeSantis's, the Haley's, yada, yada, yadas. They can't come out and pounce on this, because they have to also portray the narrative that this is a witch hunt to keep this Trump base they're trying to woo. And that they will inevitably fail, but like, they're just stuck in this fucking loop, and Trump just gets to just be Trump, and his base are still going to go rabid for him. They're still going to believe that this is all some fucking conspiracy bullshit. I mean, like, half of them are still QAnon supporters, you know what I mean? They're still logging onto that shit. So, like, this kind of thing just goes over their head. They don't care. But that being said, I'm happy to see Carroll happy and get some justice. Also, I didn't know that she was also a writer for SNL at one point, and I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, there's obviously more details and stuff like that. I don't really want to get into like, the thick of it in terms of like the actual guts of what happened. But they do go into some of the details in this article. Also, I mentioned the Daily. They do go through like her whole testimony of it. It's very intense stuff, but, we can go ahead and move along to The Hill. Feinstein set to return to Washington following months-long absence. Guess who's back again. All right, I'll spare you. It's Senator Dianne Feinstein. She's back. The bitch is back. No. Dianne Feinstein is set to return to Washington for work Tuesday for the first time since February, handing Democrats back their majority on the Senate Judiciary Committee and their one-seat advantage in the full chamber. So this is some good news. That being said, man, I mean, they literally like wheeled her in. I don't know. She's looking her best she can, and I'm glad she's overcome her battle with the shingles and stuff. I'm sure that's no good, no bueno. But I definitely do agree and think that she should retire. I've said this before, in the last one. But honestly, though, I will say though, the news media narrative that is getting pushed, that it's like, oh man, if Feinstein just comes back, it just fixes everything. It is like a classic trope that I hate, that like the Democratic left, whatever, they will put up this thing of just like, oh man, we could just get this done if it wasn't for like this Joe Manchin or this like Kirsten Sinema, or oh man, like in this situation this year, it's just like, if only Feinstein was here, and if only like Josh Fetterman, he wasn't so, going through his depression right now, like we'd get everything done. And it's like, no, dude, you're singling out individuals and putting the whole thing on them, when really this is like an overall party issue. Like, there's a lack of just cohesion and solidarity to get these kind of things done. That being said, though, Republicans definitely did railroad this process a bit. Feinstein was down to have a temporary, and Republicans are like, we're not okay with that. And like I said before, you have to have people on the floor to have these votes happen. And Feinstein is definitely a part of this judiciary committee, and they wanted to get these things done, and her not being there was, jamming up the works. So it's good that she's back. I hope that she can just finish out her term, smooth sailing, and we can get some new blood in, because I think it's definitely needed. As opposed to the Biden problem situation, yeah, I know old grumpy old Joe is still there, and it is a thing. But it's coming down to that 80-year-old dude or whatever the fuck, or however old this motherfucker is. I don't even fucking remember. He's so old. And you have Donald Trump. He's like what, 76? Also old. Like all these motherfuckers are old. Like I just want younger people in politics. But I say that, and the next person we're about to fucking cover, 2 years older than me, but man, lying his ass off. From the Associated Press, George Santos pleads not guilty to federal indictment and says he won't resign. No, he won't back down. No, he'll stand his ground. Sorry, I'm in a mode. U.S. Representative George Santos, infamous for fabricating his life story, pleaded not guilty Wednesday to charges he duped donors, stole from his campaign, and lied to Congress about being a millionaire, all while cheating to collect unemployment benefits he didn't deserve. Afterwards, he said he wouldn't drop his re-election bid and defied calls to resign. Now, it looked like he is set up against a 13 federal count indictment. I mean, usually these kind of cases don't get brought up unless they're slam dunks for the government. So I am kind of expecting a potential plea deal situation of some kind. Who knows? But I mean, he's confident. He's like, I guess we can read this quote. "This is the beginning of the ability for me to address and defend myself," he said to reporters. But his lawyer, Joseph Murray, was more circumspect, saying, "Anytime the federal government comes after you, it's a serious case. We have to take this serious." So, I mean, I do think he's up against it. He's going up against a litany of his own lies. Honestly, I don't want to get into like the details of all of them. We've covered some here and there. There's so many. You could literally do a limited series just to catch a motherfucker up on George Santos. I will say though, I find him to be a fascinating individual. Just because he's the epitome of fake it till you motherfucking make it. I mean, and not to mention too that like everything you're throwing at this guy, he just tanks it. I think one of my highlights is definitely I think he said his grandmother or whatever was Jewish and was in the Holocaust. And they're like, no, that's not true. And he goes, why are you guys pressing me on this? She's like, Jewish? I'm Jewish? Like, as if he's like adjacent. And it's like, dude, we're saying that she didn't go to, like, she wasn't in the Holocaust. Like, this is crazy. But he's done, like, check fraud, which I think is like just an old grafter's choice. Just like, I mean, oh, my checkbook was stolen. Like, dog. Like, it's just like one of those things where it's stacked up so much. It's like, I can't believe he's gotten away with it like for this long. And he did it so hard that now he is literally a U.S. representative. He is literally in the House. So I mean, we got to give flowers to a king, a queen for getting away with that. For real, for real. Kitara, we see you. We see you, girl. But man, yeah, Santos, just so crazy. It's like a content mine, because like I can just always come back to this and talk about it whenever I want. So I mean, like I said, we're in the door. He's, the wheels of justice are turning. We'll see where they stop. See if he gets away with it. Who can say? Time will tell. All right, I got one more story before I let you go. One more update, actually. Another politician in the hot seat, but we're going international. Oh my. Ooh. Oh yeah. Okay. All right, we're back. I got this one from Reuters, which I gotta say, there's a bit of a spin zone where I kind of maybe talk about. But former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan arrested, stirring nationwide violence. Pakistan's anti-corruption agency arrested former Prime Minister Imran Khan at Islamabad High Court on Tuesday, threatening fresh turmoil in the nuclear-armed country as clashes erupted between Khan supporters and police, killing at least one protester. Now, the spin thing I want to talk about is the fact that they brought up that Pakistan is a nuclear-armed country. That's not necessary to bring up. You could read a bunch of articles on this whole subject, and it hasn't been worded that way. I've even read other Reuters articles where they don't fucking do that. So I don't see the need for that. But I feel like they plant that in to just kind of make you remember that, like, hey, Pakistan, they got nuclear weapons. So the fuck does, like, the fucking UK? So the fuck does the US? Who gives a shit, man? Like, but they like to bring that up to remind you, like, oh, things are hostile, things are crazy, and they have a nuke. Ooh. Whatever. Anyway. To the story at hand, I think they do fine, whatever. But probably you could go to Al Jazeera and get better information on this. I just didn't want to deep dive it. To me, it's not that important. I just wanted to kind of bring the update. But they have finally arrested him. It's definitely something that has, obviously sparked turmoil. I think actually it might have the number of people killed or who have, died has maybe gone up. I'm not sure there. But I know for sure at least it's one protester. Now, he has come after the military before. He's still maintaining that, like, they were involved in, like, his, assassination attempt that took place. Something we've also covered. So, I mean, it's good that he's finally showed up, to, face his trial. But it looks like he was right in the sense that, like, yeah, you guys are, like, gonna just try to do something. And they did. Which kind of leads me back to this kind of problem I'm having when it comes to this coverage, where it's like, hey, this is me opening my door to geopolitics and stuff, and I'm looking in and I'm surveying and coming up with my own opinions on what the fuck is happening, trying to make heads and tails of it. And I really do feel like every party is a bad actor. Like, we're playing a game of Clue, but it's like, Murder on the Orient or whatever. You know what I mean? Everyone's kind of a bad guy. There's no good guys on this situation. Like, where you have Imran Khan, this populist guy, he came into power with the backing of the military. Okay, that's cool. He said he was going to do all this stuff, and he didn't really deliver. He just had a bunch of hype. And for me, I'm like, okay, all right, you let the man cook. But when you get to the point where you're trying to stop the wheels of power to make sure that you maintain your rule, that's where it's bad. That being said, you have now the government who, has ousted him. And it's like, are they the good guys? And it's like, I don't know. I feel like how they've kind of gone about handling this Imran Khan situation hasn't maybe been the best. I don't know. That being said, Imran Khan's popped off like, oh, it's the West. They're out to get me. This is a whole hit job. And I think what really has made it worse is he turned on the military that got him there, which is like the third party. And they're kind of like the ones running the strings. And just from what I've seen, I feel like whenever you have a super strong military running things, that's when everything is like the scariest. And that's usually when, the people themselves are usually caught in the middle and they don't have the power where I feel like they're supposed to have. And that's where it's fucked up, right? So it's like, who's the good guys? I don't fucking know. Maybe it's all shades of bad, like most things in life. But it looks like now he is, he's facing potential charges of like corruption over land that he purchased. And I think like once he was called out on it, he was supposed to like give back the money, but like he didn't. I don't know. This shit's complicated to me. And they use words like exchequer, and I'm like, I've heard this before. I know it's like banking terms in like UK, but like, I don't know. So it's not looking good for if you're a Khan fan. It's not looking great. And I mean, he is, told people to like, hey, stand up and, fight for me. And also, his other, leaders of his, administration, defending him along his campaign. They're like, hey, yeah, you gotta do it. You gotta fight for him. Like, he fought for you. And it's like, I don't know, man. If this dude didn't deliver for me, I wouldn't be fighting on the streets for him. That's just me personally, but I'm not in the ground. I'm not there, so I don't know. And shit, the hardest I ever went was like for Obama, and I just voted. Like that was as deep as it was gonna get for me. Let's see. Here, I can read a little bit here. Khan and his wife were accused of having received land, I think, yeah, when he was still prime minister, land worth up to 7 billion rupees or $24.7 million from a property developer who had been charged in Britain with money laundering, which apparently I've learned over my research that Britain is like very dirty. Like just a lot of like money moves through there, a lot of like just international like crime shit. Not necessarily like tying it to that, but this is a little fun fact I've learned, which I'm like, hey, they're just like us for real. But it's added that British authorities have returned 190 million pounds or $240 million to Pakistan in connection with money laundering, but that Khan had returned the money to the developer instead of keeping it in the national exchequer. So he did something that wasn't supposed to be done, and he's being accused of corruption. So I think there might be other crimes that he might be up against, because like I said, he was already in there for some other shit that he was like fighting, and wasn't expected to go to, he wasn't expecting to go to jail that day, but that's what wound up happening. So that was the plot twist. That's what people are on the streets fighting. And yeah, hopefully that catches us all up there, at least up to my knowledge. So that's really all I got for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to help and support the podcast, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Isaiah News. That's how you become a newsie. Or newsette, like I said, I don't know. Pick whatever you want. $5 a month, you can name yourself whoever, and I'm going to be happy to call you that. But you get access to my bonus episodes. I do one a week. Also, hot link to the Discord, but the Discord is free. Just got to hit me up. Find me for that. Also, you get a newsy shout out at the top of the month. I will say your name on the podcast. I will also plug whatever project you're on. A little bit of LinkedIn building there, turn me into an advertisement. Why don't ya? Well, whatever. Also, I usually prioritize any news a newsy will give me, because I just feel like, yes, that's like, this is the operation. We're the network. But that's a free action. Like I said, I literally love talking about news. I appreciate any and every person who wants to just water cooler talk with me about news they've heard, local, wherever. Sometimes I use it on the pod. That's my jam. I love that. But yeah, free ways to hit me up, IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. Also Facebook, Twitter. You can comment. You can like and subscribe on the YouTube. You can do the rates. You can hit the stars. Do all that if you'd like. That'd be cool. High stars, please. I want that. Or whatever. I don't know. Do what you want. Let's see. That's about it. That's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being a friend. Hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love you. Bye-bye. Mwah.